Hello and welcome to Resto Shaman in Midnight. As usual, we're gonna go over similar steps as we did before. Starting off with talents. There aren't many choices you can really make when it comes to your actual spec talents. In fact, I don't think there even is any choices you can actually make. You could maybe like drop Earth Living Weapon and like Resurgence, potentially to get like something like Earthen Accord, and maybe you can get like some mana reduction on Chain Heal or something, but other than that, there is no real choices you can really make in the actual class tree itself. And well, spec tree. In the class tree, you can make some small changes. You can play Purge in some keys where you need it. Alternatively, you could play also Poison Cleanse in like keys like Windrunner Spire, for example. Or you could play, Purge in the case of like Magister's Terrace or Mysara Caverns, for example. Things like that. You can also potentially play either Spirit Walk or Gust of Wind, depending on the instance's needs as well. If you're playing something like Seat of the Triumvirate, first pool, you can use Spirit Walk to remove the subjugation chains from the first area mobs, like the subjugators. The circles that they put on people are freedom effects, so you can remove those. And same thing for Nexus Point, with the engineer pools on the left side of the instance. You can freedom those suppression field circles too. Same story. And if you don't really have any freedom effects that you need to remove, you can always just play Gust of Wind as a repositioning tool, as usual. Same as it's always really been. Other than that, there's no real other things you can really change. Particularly. None of them really feel particularly more impactful than each other, at least. Kind of pretty straightforward, choices that you can really make. And in terms of like Totemic versus Farseer, because I know that this is a relevant topic, the problem right now is Totemic doesn't feel strong enough. It has like okay AoE healing with the chain heals that come from the totems, but it's lacking in single target healing. Where Farseer is the complete opposite. It has good single target healing, but very mediocre AoE healing. But realistically, like, dungeons require more single target healing in most cases, so Farseer ends up just being the better of the two. Which is why everybody's just going to play Farseer instead. Which is why I'm also playing Farseer too. Moving on to stats. You play the same stats as you did in the previous expansion, pretty much. In this case, you want at least 25% haste, because if you play any lower than that, then your cast speeds are going to be significantly slower, and it's going to affect your, well, performance in general per pool. For example, if I drop down to 24% haste, my cast speed is already like 0.1 slower, which is problematic. And if I try to go for higher haste, with like a flask and a trinket change, well, it doesn't really change my cast speed at all. So that extra little bit of haste doesn't really particularly do anything, which is why I'm playing 25%, and I'm just getting more crit instead. There is a world where you can also translate this crit into a little bit of versatility if you choose to do so. Currently though, I am playing higher crit as much as I possibly can, with 25% haste, and a little bit of mastery from our usual trinkets that we play on every healer, because they are just the best trinkets in the game for, well, casters, but also healers in general. There's a case to be made for Volatile Void Suffuser, but that's only if you really, really need the extra haste. Otherwise, you just play Ribbon instead, because it gives you more main stat. And main stat is very important in this expansion. That about does it for stats, though. Pretty straightforward. As usual, moving on to the basic core gameplay and your aim in the actual keys themselves. Like, we have like two key examples here. We have a Sky Reach and we have a Windrunner Spire. We can start with the Windrunner Spire for the moment. Now, before we begin, the general gameplay though, the general gameplay loop of Resto Shaman is essentially use your Unleash Life on CD, which is a 17-second cooldown, for a few reasons. First of all, your tier set is completely revolving around it, which basically means that you get more Unleash Lives in general, because it reduces the cooldown and just increases its healing, so it's a powerful direct heal, especially if it crits, but also because it spawns you Ancestors guaranteed. The other thing is your Nature Swiftness. Well, in this case, Ancestral Swiftness, because you play Farseer. It's the same thing as your usual Swiftness, except it's a 30-second cooldown instead, and it guaranteedly spawns you another Ancestor, which is really nice. So essentially, like, those are your main two buttons that you really need to pay attention to. You want to Unleash, you get an Ancestor, you can spend your Unleash Life, you can Nature Swiftness, if you need like a spike heal on a person, that gives you another Ancestor. Those are the two main things that are the most important by a lot. Their importance is very, very high. So that's like, you know, the two things that you absolutely must do always. Other than that, the general gameplay is you want to apply Riptide on targets as much as you possibly can. And in between that, you Healing Wave. So like, for the reasons of Deluge increases your healing on targets that have Riptide. In this case, since we do not play Healing Rain as Farseer, so it needs to be a Riptide. And the other thing is you have the Coalescing Water talent. So like, it's a little gameplay loop of like Riptide and Healing Wave, basically. It's pretty straightforward. Like, as you're running to the pools or in between the pools, you can spend your Riptides on people to get some basic healing increases on them, but in actual combat, the majority of the time you're going to Healing Wave into Riptide is the general loop, if you want like maximum potential healing. Otherwise, you can also do Healing Wave Riptide with only one stack of Coalescing Water. It depends on the urgency of like people's damage taken. Other than that, you have your Healing Stream Totem. Whenever you have an Ancestor out, your Healing Stream Totem does a chain heal for free. So like, if I Unleash Life and spawn an Ancestor and I press my totem, it chain heals, which is just some free healing, which is kind of nice. And other than that, you just try to do as many Riptides as you possibly can. The biggest reason of like, I mean, it increases your healing through Deluge, but also it gives you a chance of proccing Ascendance. And while this Ascendance is merely meant to be a supplement to your healing in some moments whenever it procs, you know, in between your heals, because Shaman's current state in the, well, current week of beta, in this case, it is January 21st. So, you know, if there's more patches in the future, this will slightly deviate this little particular segment that I'm talking about right now. But essentially, like right now, your spec, like Resto Shaman, crutches heavily on Ascendance procs for AoE healing purposes, because your chain heals are very, very undertuned. So you don't really have like actual like meaningful AoE healing at the moment. Your AoE healing is essentially to just Healing Wave people. That's your AoE healing. You Healing Wave people, you Riptide in between, and you Healing Wave in between. Essentially, you're like spike healing people, and you're also cleaving them through Whispering Waves with Healing Wave as well. There is some cases where you can press Chain Heal, and it will actually do something, but those times are usually during Ascendance, which is the other thing that we need to talk about. Ascendance gives you a buff called Boon of the Water Ascendant. So I'm going to just manually use my Ascendance, just so we can see it. And when you use a Riptide, your next spell, your Chain Heal or Healing Wave, becomes instant. So it becomes a loop of Riptide, Healing Wave or Chain Heal. Riptide, Healing Wave or Chain Heal constantly. The entirety of your Ascendance. It's a satisfying loop, to be sure. But essentially, anytime you have a Ascendance proc, you want to be doing as much as of that as you can during healing moments. You wanna get as many boon procs as you possibly can. The other thing is like you can bank these procs in the case you don't get to spend them. They still stay on you, and they still do the same thing. They give you the instantaneous healing component. So it's like a little game of like managing these buffs during Ascendance. But essentially, the gameplay loop is quite straightforward. It's just healing wave, Riptide, or healing wave, Riptide. You want to get as many Riptide as you possibly can, though. So like typically, for me personally, like if there's like mild damage happening, I tend to do double healing wave into Riptide for maximum coalescing water value. But if there's like urgency of healing, then I healing wave Riptide, healing wave Riptide. That way I can get more Riptides out on people, so you have more people affected by Deluge, which is 15% healing increase, of course. But also because every single Riptide gets you one step closer to an Ascendance, and Ascendance means you are happy. That's the general gist of the situation for Resto Shaman right now. In the future, of course, this may change once they buff Chain Heal, if they decide to actually do it or not. But at the moment, like you're essentially trying to bait for Ascendance procs as much as you possibly can, because it solves your AoE healing problem. That's the general loop that you're aiming for. Healing Wave, Riptide, Healing Wave, Riptide, or Healing Wave, Riptide. And then once you get an Ascendance proc, if you have some Riptides ready, which you usually do, because, you know, I currently wasted them just because I'm just showing the gameplay. You can potentially like preemptively stack some boons of the Water Ascendant, damage happens, and then you can spend them immediately, of course, into like Chain Heal or something, or Healing Wave, or whatever like button you need at the time. Like, you know, like for example, like right now I could do this, like, you know, like damage happens later, and then I can spend it during Ascendance or after Ascendance. Essentially, that's the general situation. And of course, like in between that, you still want to do your nature swiftness, so you can get like an ancestor. You want to be unleashing life as well to get another ancestor, because it just duplicates healing, right? It's just free healing. It's a very straightforward loop, but it can become a little hectic depending on the situation sometimes, because you do have to rotate multitudes of buttons, situationally speaking. And you need to make sure you keep using your totems as well during like ancestors if you can't, for some free chain heals. Even if those chain heals don't do huge healing, it will still do some healing, and your healing stream totems will also do some bonus healing as well to supplement the in-between your healing wave moments, and, you know, reapplying like Riptides and whatnot. Like this, for example, right? Like I can get Boon of the Water Ascendant, Boon of the Water Ascendant, and even if like Ascendance expires, I still have these two buffs, so I can still spend them on anything I want, and just continue doing that over and over. Now onto the key. But that is essentially the main goal. So like here, while we're running, I'm just applying some Riptides preemptively because they last very long anyway. I have no reason not to. I will still come into the pool with some Riptides ready anyway. Like here, at the beginning of the pool, I'm just going to unleash life and start applying some Riptides in between my healing waves. I will manually Ascendance because this pool is very scary. These magical dots and the casters and the Namagus does like heavy AoE damage. So like, yeah, like Nature Sweetness is out, Unleash Life is out, and I'm already in Ascendance in this case because I used it manually. So I'm gonna Healing Wave Riptide, into Healing Wave, into Riptide, into Healing Wave, into Riptide, into Healing Wave, into Riptide. Pretty straightforward, like you could see it. Or like Chain Heal in this case, because some people were losing HP. And I just continue doing that. And again, you could see, like, if I don't need to, I do not spend my Boon of the Water Ascendant. I'm waiting for something to happen, right? In this case, I did Unleash Life. Again, because I want my ancestors out so they can help me heal. And I did a Chain Heal because the tank gets healed, the Warlock gets healed, and anyone else that might be losing HP gets healed as well. But again, I am only chain healing in this scenario because I'm in Ascendance. If I wasn't in Ascendance, I would likely have to healing wave them for like stronger healing, because chain heal doesn't do enough by itself. And right, and this is what the breakdown looks like. This is the chain heal from the totems, or from the ancestors, and during my Ascendance with Bloodlust and everything, and potion, and like, you know, like all the cooldowns in the game. And it did some decent healing. But this is with Bloodlust, insane amount of haste. This is with my main stat potion, which gives me 1.4k intellect, which is almost double my intellect, basically, right? Like I'm doubling my intellect pretty much during that phase, and it still felt unimpactful. Unfortunately, it still tops people during Bloodlust and Ascendance, but yeah, outside of that, it's just quite weak. Like here, for example, right? I purposely, like here, I have a boon, so it's gonna be instant. I unleash life. I chain heal. Look at this, right? Look at these like small baby numbers here. What am I meant to do with those? I just did it just to see how much it would do with the unleash. Sometimes I just do it just to test, like, is it gonna actually move a health bar or not? And then meanwhile, you see like this healing wave, for example, here. 125, right? Like and nature swiftness. So the spell is instant, and then just a regular healing wave, right? That's why it feels very awkward to chain heal in general outside of Ascendance, because your healing waves are just so much stronger. But you can see like the gameplay loop is quite straightforward. It's just a lot of like micromanaging of spawning your ancestors through Unleash Life and Nature Swiftnesses, and just making sure you're riptiding it whenever it makes sense as much as possible. In this case, like I didn't like re-riptide. I'm sitting a little bit on riptides, which is not necessarily great, but at the same time, I don't want to accidentally proc an Ascendance, because it is a chance per, like, I'm pretty sure it's some procs per minute type of system, right? So like I don't really want to waste that opportunity, like, because now I have a proc, and we can use this proc to save lives. We unleashed, we have a boon ready, and I use that boon immediately on the healing wave for 100k. Right, quite convenient. The mage will die here because we didn't CC. That is not a healer problem. I can't do anything about this. One CC for the boys, right? My cap totem was on cooldown because I CC the first one with cap totem, but nobody CC the second one, you know. But yeah, just same thing. Unleash immediately, he dies because he gets every dot in the game. But the reason why he's actually fully dead is because he gets the cast again, and nobody stops this one either. For some reason. So this is not a healer problem, this is just the group needs to play better with CCs. Again, I have nothing. I cannot kick this ability. This is a CC ability. And my totem is on cooldown, so, you know. Unlucky ditch. But anyway, just make sure Unleash is on cooldown at all times, so you can get an ancestor. Even if you don't need it for healing, you can still spawn an ancestor and use it for a DPS purpose, right? Because your ancestor duplicates anything you do. Whether that's chain lightning or lava bursts or lava bolts even. Like you always just want it on cooldown. Same thing for nature swiftness. Right? It's ready and I instantly use it again. And I get it on cooldown. Get my ancestors out. Unleash Life is ready. I use it immediately. And then we can just use them for whatever purpose we want. And just continue doing that. Just Riptide, Healing Wave, Riptide. Constantly. The little loop of gameplay. And you know, if I need like some mild AoE healing, I still use my healing stream totem during my ancestors because it gives me a chain heal. Even if it's like a, you know, 15k chain heal, it's still free. So there's no reason not to do it. Especially if it's like in between my buttons or like in between movement when I cannot hard cast anything. Like the gameplay is quite straightforward, I would say, but it's still like a lot of micromanaging that you need to do. Same as like Disc Priest and Paladin, for example. Now we go on to the healing check boss. And I will be aiming to do the exact same thing here. Just gonna preemptively apply some riptides to them so they have like increased healing, because we do not know who the boss is going to target, right? We have no idea. It doesn't preemptively show you. Like in this case, they both have like a riptide, so they both take extra healing from me, and I still have one boon of the Ascendant because I had an Ascendance proc from the previous pool, right? So like here when I was like reapplying stuff, I got an Ascendance proc and I just I used some riptides to get a boon, so it's not completely wasted at least. I still use that boon proc in the future here to healing wave one of the warlocks. And then I need instant nature swiftness. Unleash Life is also on cooldown, so both of my ancestors are out. And I just keep riptiding, right? And again, because I'm riptiding so much, I'm getting Ascendance once again, which is exactly what you want to do. And here I'm riptiding on purpose in between to try to get some boon procs. And here I use my manual Ascendance so I do not fall behind, because if I didn't, I would fall behind on healing here a little bit. It's a very punishing spec right now because of its healing numbers. So you need to be very aggressive with your cooldowns sometimes, and that's also why you want to be super aggressive with pressing your actual. There we go. I got another proc. Your riptides. This proc is not wasted either because I got the riptide and I got to do a little bit of a setup for the circle mechanics there. And same thing, I'm just gonna continue riptiding as much as I can, continue pressing my totems, pressing Unleash, pressing Nature Swiftness as much as I physically can. Like we're gonna Healing Wave into Unleash here. There we go. And I Healing Wave to consume it. Riptide, I got a proc again. Beautiful. Here we were. We were in a really bad spot. This was my own mistake. I practically killed myself here. Don't do this. Do not do this. If you find yourself in this situation, go over here already. You don't really want to be there, but you have to be there because the way we baited, basically like the way that the boss works, right? In the intermission, depending on where you spawn the circles, which, you know, like, is like the 2 divas that he applies to people, that's where tornadoes come from, right? So here we spawn them all on this side, and I was inconveniently on the same side as that, right? So that was really, really bad. Just don't do that, basically. But there I was going to stabilize them into Natural Swiftness, and then you know, maybe like a couple of more like Riptides and Healing Waves in between, and it would have been okay. And yeah, the other thing is like you want to be using your totems on cooldowns as well, as much as possible. Like Stormstream, for example, I got a proc, so I just insta used it because there's no loss. It's a free heal. But in general, your Apex talent is just simply used on cooldown. You don't really care about it. Whatever healing it does is a free amount of healing. But you can see it, like, it's essentially like pretty straightforward. Like, make sure you're unleashing, make sure you're natural swiftnessing, and make sure you're riptiding as much as humanly possible in between your healing waves to stabilize people's health bars. That's all you can really do. And yeah, that's how you AoE heal, unfortunately. Outside of a sentence, you just cannot really press chain heal. It just doesn't really do anything right now. In the future, you can probably press chain heal, but at the moment, you press healing waves only, and that's all you can really do. Just make sure you riptide constantly to get potential procs of Ascendance. And yeah, that you can see that's pretty much the gameplay. It's just a lot of micromanaging of Unleash Life, Nature Swiftness, Riptide cooldown, and then healing waving in between, and then yeah, managing your own personal defensive, of course, if you need to. That's pretty straightforward. And then like spirit linking whenever you know you will fall behind because you don't have an Ascendance proc for a while, and you just don't have like, you know, no Unleash, no Nature Swiftness to spawn like Ancestors, things like that. It's like it's your save the person like right now in this very second kind of cooldown, right? They also nerfed Spirit Link, keep in mind. It does not instantaneously tick anymore when you drop it down. So it is not as reliable of a cooldown as it used to be, but as long as you use it early enough, it should be okay. Keep that in mind. And for example, like if we play out like a different key, you will see I'm still doing the same thing, but I might be like more aggressive with pressing, like for example, like trying to press like some chain heals just to show that it's quite weak. I believe this was like one of those keys. This was like on patch day, basically like after they buffed chain heal by 23%, and it was still so sad. But same thing, right? I'm just riptiding and I'm gaining boon stacks as much as I can because there's nothing happening right now, right? So I'm just gonna use my ancestors to DPS and just riptide on city. And now I'm gonna just chain heal with those boon procs, right? And like that kind of did some decent healing, right? Because I'm in Ascendance and Bloodlust and main stat potion and everything, right? Like it requires too many modifiers to do actual healing, right? Like here it looks impressive, but it's only because we're in Bloodlust with Ascendance and Potion, so. But the gameplay still remains the same. Unleash on cooldown, use your totems in between if you need some mild AoE healing. Nature Swiftness to spawn more ancestors as well. And just continue doing that over and over. And your AoE healing is still going to be Riptide and Healing Waves, and that's it. That you cannot do anything else. It is a little limited. They removed some layers of gameplay of Shaman, so it's even simpler now. But yeah, those are the things you need to do pretty much. So yeah, it just kind of boils down to like your understanding of the fights, or like the damage patterns that you're going to be dealing with, right? Like you just need to be a little preemptive with it sometimes. In a sense, like sometimes you have to kind of play it like a priest or a druid, even though you're like a aggressive, like you're a reactive healer, right? Like damage happens, you heal, right? Sometimes you gotta like think about it a little bit ahead of time in terms of like your unleash and nature swiftness ancestors being outside, and then you know like trying to like force proc maybe like an ascendance throw, spamming riptide and all that stuff. You gotta think about it a little bit more. But that's essentially the gameplay though. Totems on cooldowns, unleashes on cooldown, nature swiftness on cooldown, and in between just healing wave and riptide. That's the general gameplay. Like, let's move on to the second boss here, which is heal intense. You're gonna see this boss on most other healers. I have like good AoE healing. Here I do not. Here I'm just going to constantly healing wave, riptide, nature swiftness, healing wave, riptide, unleash life, healing wave, riptide. And just if I have like a storm totem, like I just had, I just use it immediately on cooldown because it's just free passive healing. Do keep in mind, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but when you use like a storm totem, like a proc one from Riptide, it doesn't seem to proc chain heal from ancestors like a regular healing stream totem does. I'm not sure if that's intentional design or not, but it just seems like that's how it works for some reason. Keep that in mind. So like every totem that I use, I just use it for the raw healing, nothing else. I don't use it because I want to chain heal or something, because it doesn't seem to do that. Seemingly, I have noticed that it doesn't seem to do that, at least. But again, same thing. Constantly unleash life, nature swiftness to get your ancestors out. Constantly healing wave into healing wave riptide, or healing wave riptide immediately. Depends on the urgency of the damage, as we mentioned before. You can see problematic. But yeah, as you can see, it's just how the gameplay is, basically. That's pretty much Shaman in a nutshell. If you want more footage, you can check it out on the channel. I do have like a couple of uploads in general on Shaman. But essentially that's what it boils down to. That's the performance of Shaman. It is a little bit limited. It can definitely do some 19, maybe like some of the easier 20s, but yeah, until some buffs, yeah, it'll continue being limited. At the very least, like the gameplay is okay, and that's what matters, I believe. But yeah, as usual, again, if you guys have any questions or like want me to you know, talk about something that I didn't cover at the moment, you can write it in the comments and I can reply to it there in case I missed something. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next video and have a good one. Bye bye.